You're listening to SM Media, the number one place for exclusive Scottish football content.
Hi folks, and welcome back to the latest episode of the SM Media Scottish Football Show. I'm Scott McPike. It is an absolute pleasure to be your host as always. Really happy to be back doing the show, obviously with a wee bit of a break with the World Cup and obviously a busy Christmas period. But we are back. It is the first show of 2023. Happy New Year to all our listeners. And I want to welcome tonight's guest. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome back to the show, first of all, Scott Bradley. Scott, Happy New Year and welcome back to the show.
You too, mate. Thank you very much for having me again.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to this one. I'm delighted to be joined by our Celtic columnist on the channel, the man who keeps us up to date with Celtic, everything Celtic over the past few months. It's a pleasure to welcome back Josh McCafferty. Josh, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, mate. Looking forward to this tonight.
Brilliant. It's going to be a good show. Obviously, we've had a busy few weeks. Obviously, some news. We've obviously been a bit away for the SPFL. We're back. Obviously, we're going to talk about this. The previous Monday's action with a bit of full card on Monday, dominated with a couple of big derbies that we'll get into as well. We'll also talk about the Championship, League One and League Two. Obviously been some busy times over the past few weeks. But where else to start but the early kick-off on Monday? Rangers 2, Celtic 2. The gap between Celtic and Rangers is still 9 points. Celtic obviously took the lead early on through Dies and Maida. Rangers got back into the game, an early goal in the second half from Ryan Kent and then a penalty from James Tavernier turned it round for Rangers, but a late equaliser from Kyogo sealed a point for Celtic and kept the gap to 9 points. There's a lot to get through here, boys. It was one of those games. It was end to end. There was a lot going on. Both sides, I think, had chances. It was just one of those old firms where you're just. It was kind of non-stop, wasn't it? If you're a neutral, you certainly had a decent day watching that.
Aye, like you say, it's great watch for the neutral. Not so much for the fans of both teams, to be honest. You're at the edge of your seat the whole time. I think the point suits Celtic much more than it does Rangers. I think the challenge for the title, there's still a slight hope there, but to really challenge and come back, they'd have needed to win that game. They were close. Kyogo, as you say, the last couple of minutes gets his goal. Celtic didn't really threaten, to be honest. In the second half, they didn't create. I think it was 2 shots on target throughout the game. So, But they were clinical in front of goal, and Kyogo gets that in the last minute to keep their 9 point lead. Invaluable strike for the Japanese soldiers.
I think you're in your point there about Celtic. I thought the first 20 minutes Celtic were excellent. I thought they just controlled the ball. They were making Rangers sit back. The Rangers couldn't really get near them, to be honest. And it was just as if Rangers kind of get into the game. Celtic obviously took the early goal. We'll get into that obviously throughout the game. And then the last 20 minutes, you would say Celtic get back in. They were doing what they did at the start and obviously get the reward. But, Josh, what does that do for Celtic? 9 points. If you'd probably said to Ange Postecoglou at the start of when they come back from the World Cup break, it would still be 9 points after Christmas, and you would have won 4 games and drew against Rangers. They would have probably took that.
Oh yeah, definitely. You take that, and to be 9 points clear at this stage is brilliant for Celtic. They've got a couple of home games coming up now. And I think the point suits them, as I said earlier, more than it does Rangers. You say Celtic dominated the first 20 minutes. I think they played really well. However, I think the Joe Hart mistake kind of changed the shift of the match.
Yeah.
He took his time on the ball in the box. Morelos got in. Kent has a shot. Hart does make a good save, to be fair to him, but that kind of changed the flow and Rangers kind of came into that more. They came out in the second half and it was probably they started the second half and they finished the first half on top and they got their 2 quick fire goals. The penalty, the Rangers penalty, is a penalty all day for me, I feel. We can go on to talk more about the goals and handball later on.
I'll get into that, don't worry.
Yeah.
Scott, from a Rangers perspective, I think similar in the way of if you'd said to Michael Beale, and we've been quite quiet about Michael Beale coming in, I've been quite impressed with him so far. I think he's come in, he's not changed very much, but in a way changed a lot. And if you said to him it would be 9 points after the Celtic game and they'd won 4 and drew 1, I think he would have taken that as well. But when you're 2-1 up and you turn the game around after going behind early, it's one of those where you probably think from a Rangers perspective, has it 2 points dropped?
Yeah, it's a massive missed opportunity. from a Rangers perspective, Scott, because first half, Celtic were obviously good for the first 20 minutes. Then there really wasn't much between the sides. Then second half, it was all Rangers. Rangers utterly dominated Celtic. Rangers played a lot of good stuff. Sakala was sensational. I think Ivanovic will be having nightmares about him. I think the rest of the Celtic defence will be too. Rangers played really well second half. They were like dominant, playing as I said, a lot of good stuff. And then I think it was the substitutions that cost Rangers, bringing on Scott Wright and James Sands. And obviously, you can see the difference there from the bench. Celtic brought on Jota, etc. Rangers bring on James Sands and Scott Wright. And we see up front as well, we took off Morelos. And then when you look up front, you've got Sakala, Scott Wright, then obviously Kent. It's a bit, see round about the centre area, it's a bit light. So if we had brought on maybe, I don't know, Kamar Roof, or even this is what I think I would have done, I would have brought on Kamar Roof and Arfield, maybe put Roof outright, then Arfield in the midfield, because Arfield's like a total impact sub. You would have came on, he's ruthless like a wee pit bull, he's like bags of energy. I think that would have been the perfect sub. Or even if he wasn't going to bring on Roof, even bring on Cholak. But Cholak, you've got something up front, he can hold the ball up and maybe cause the Celtic defence some problems. But yeah, I think the subs are what cost Rangers at the end of the day. And Michael Beale so far has not really put a foot wrong since he's came in. He's had a good start. And yeah, there's plenty of positives I think Rangers can take from that performance, because once Maeda scored in the first half, a lot of Rangers fans, including myself, were fearing the worst. We thought, here we go, it's going to be another Celtic dominant performance where they're going to wipe the floor with Rangers. But yeah, whatever Beale said to them at half-time, it worked. It was great to see Ryan Kent get a goal. I think that would be massive for him in terms of his confidence. But yeah, plenty of positive to take, but it was 2 points dropped and Rangers should have won that.
I think Josh hitting a good point there as well, and I think we've using both kind of covered it. Rangers for the two Celtic goals are really, really poor. They're two poor mistakes, particularly from Morelos for the pass for the first goal. Obviously lets Maeda in. Tavernier should clear it. But Josh makes a point there. Celtic are clinical. Celtic pounce on mistakes. Celtic were capitalising on that. Maeda still had a lot to do, and I think as well the first goal, Maeda is able to take a poor touch and still recover with enough time to get through and goal. And I think that's the thing Rangers really need to work on. There's a lot of the same mistakes that Rangers make. From a Celtic perspective, Josh, when you're not playing well, and I think Celtic have played well in recent weeks. I think particularly the Hibs game, you touched on it the other day. Celtic against Hibs were so clinical, were able to just cut through Hibs, and that it takes a lot for that Celtic team, particularly when they're not having a great and they're not playing well. The performance isn't there. They don't give in. They're still able to still take the chance. They still take that late chance. Kyogo, it's a brilliant finish. It's a really good finish. It's an instinctive finish. But also, I think the big thing for Celtic is Celtic subs compared to Rangers subs. Celtic brought on, obviously, Juranovic was enforced for Greg Taylor. Aaron Moy comes on, Jota comes on, Abada, and then you've got Giakoumakis. And Scott made the point there, Rangers' three subs are Ryan Jack, James Sands, and Scott Wright. And it tells you a lot about the difference in squad at the moment, Josh. And I think Celtic, that's the edge Celtic have now. Celtic have just got firepower. They can bring it. The Johnson come straight in, and I thought he did pretty well. I think there was at times where you could see I think the occasion maybe got to him, but he was still reasonable enough. I thought in his first game, Carter Vickers was a rock at the back as well. And Celtic just have this thing of the squad's fit. They're not picking up many injuries. And when you've got that unity and you've got that consistency, it's the reason they're 9 points clear.
Yeah, I think it was the market champions. Celtic were able to go to the home of their fiercest rivals and pick up a point despite how poorly they played. You make the point about the squads. I think Celtic's recruitment right now at the minute is very, very good. The way they're forward thinking, they're always looking at the next options to sign 3 players before January this year. Mm-hmm. That's excellent. That's the kind of difference between Celtic and Rangers right now. I know Michael Beale's just came in and things like that. I'm not really in tune with Rangers as much as you guys might be. I'm not sure if they've looked to add to the squad, if there's been any players rumoured. However, Celtic are 2 steps ahead of the game, as always, right now with Ange Postecoglou. And it's a nice change for Celtic supporters from a couple of years ago when we were looking at signing loan players. at the last minute, and I think it was a great point for us. And the squad right now, like you say, guys like Jota, Giakoumakis, Abada, all internationals for the country apart from Jota, coming off the bench there. And I think the subs did make a difference, though, Giakoumakis up top. I think he would push that Rangers backline back, and then it allows Kyogo to get into that space that's been allowed there, and that's how he gets the goal, because Giakoumakis is right in there against the centre-halves. Kyogo's at the edge of the box to gobble up the chance like he does. It's a great finish into the roof of the net, goes through a couple of bodies. Johnston, I think, done really well. I was pleasantly surprised with him coming in a big game like that on his debut. He's played in the MLS. I don't think, no disrespect to the MLS, you'll not have an atmosphere like that, especially away against Rangers. So he done really well. He coped to the occasion well. There's a couple of times he looked vulnerable, but I think he has all the marks of a promising signing for Celtic, and he will probably be the first choice right back. Juranovic was very poor. Sakala gave him a really tough time. For I think it was the goal, Ryan Kent's goal, Juranovic is way out of position. The ball comes over the top, allows Sakala to take it down, does pretty well, plays in Kent. It's a great finish for Ryan Kent. With all due respect, Johnston, I don't think he can do much there. Kent cuts inside. But pleased with Johnson. He looks really good, and pleased with the point overall. And Celtic continue. I think we might get one or two more in before the end of the window. I wouldn't be surprised to see that as well.
Yeah, I think there could be potentially one or two in and maybe one or two out. There's talk tonight, obviously, with Giakoumakis potentially going. Obviously, we've heard the talk about Juranovic as well. It's Celtic. Scott have got their recruitment really well, really well sorted out. As Josh mentioned there, a couple of seasons ago, it was really bad, really poor Celtic recruitment. But the thing that gets me with, and this is where I think Rangers have to learn a lesson from Celtic, is every player seems to be a player that the manager wants to bring in to suit his system. Now, over the past couple of years, I've been on here a lot talking about Rangers recruitment and what is the actual structure, what's the plan. Michael Beale's coming in. Michael Beale's obviously come in. He wants to bring in 2 or 3 in this window. I think a win for Rangers would not have changed the fact that the squad needs a massive overhaul. You've got the situation with Kent Morelos. I get the vibe, if Michael Beale had the choice between keeping one of them, it's Ryan Kent all day long. I think he wouldn't be too bothered if Morelos was away any time, because I think a lot of patience is kind of running out with Morelos. But Michael Beale and Ross Wilson have to get this January has to be the start of the Rangers squad rebuild, because it has to be a rebuild. There's a lot of players there who aren't good enough. There's a lot of players there who have maybe reached their peak. This has to be a big start for Beale and Wilson to get this recruitment right in the next 6 months, because January you can start it. Summer's going to be massive, but January you can start putting the pieces in the puzzle, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be massive. And obviously Ross Wilson has came under a lot of criticism as of late. Even at the AGM, he was asked about his role. And he says, I'm not the one that makes signings. So I'm like, what are you doing there then? Like, what are we paying you for? You know? But yeah, it's going to be crucial. So the rebuild needs to start like now. And there's a lot of deadwood that needs to go. And I do agree with you. I think he would pick Ryan Kent over Morelos. I love Alfredo Morelos. On his day, in my opinion, when he's on it, he is, in my opinion, the best striker in the country. But we've not seen Morelos perform this season whatsoever. Where in January, he's no fit. Even in the Old Firm game, he was still sluggish. He had 2 good chances. If that was Morelos from the 2020 season, he would have scored it. So yeah, like there were 2 golden opportunities there for him to get a goal. He didn't do it. And yeah, if I had to pick, I would rather part ways with Morelos. And I think Beale kind of alluded to that. He made a wee hint at the press conference, like speaking about that. But yeah, the rebuild needs to start now. A lot of deadwood, like the likes of Scott Wright, James Sands. Obviously, we were talking about Hollander off air. I think he'll be off as well. He's not played football in over a year. Like there's Ryan Jack. He's one that kind of divides opinion, because Ryan Jack, when he's fit, he's a good player, but he's missed a lot of games. But the impression I'm getting off Michael Beale is that he's a fan of Ryan Jack, so it would not surprise me if he gets offered a new deal. Scott Arfield, me personally, I would actually offer him a new contract, purely because, like, even when you look in the Aberdeen game when he came on, just completely transformed the game as an impact sub. He loves the club, gives his all. I would definitely give him like another deal. And obviously, I'm not saying start him every game, far from it. Start him every so often, squad player, bring him off from the bench. But yeah, it's going to be crucial. The summer's going to be massive, especially this window. I think Rangers at least need to get two or three players in, maybe one or two out the door. The situation with Morelos is where he's out of contract in the season. Do we sell him in January, or do we just keep him until the end of the season? So I think Ryan Kent will sign a new deal, but Morelos, it's just up in the air. And in terms of Cholak as well, a lot of people think that he's not going to fit into Beale's system, which will be quite disappointing because Cholak's been our best signing from the summer. He's been fantastic, banging in the goals, and there's a reason why he's kept Alfredo Morelos out the team. So it would be disappointing if he was to go, but hopefully Beale can find a way to fit him in the squad. But yeah, he needs to get players that are going to fit into his system.
Josh, with the first Old Firm game with the new technology of VAR, we did have the participation of something maybe happening. I thought overall the referee actually was okay. I don't think there was any terrible decisions that he got wrong. The one thing you can obviously point to is the Connor Goldson handball. Now, I don't think anybody can argue that it's a handball, but we've got people saying is the rule, is it a deliberate handball? But you've also obviously got what you usually get after an Old Firm is the talk of, is there evil forces at work? Now, I think I've said it before, I've never agreed on that. I think it's nonsense, but we do have this thing with VAR, and my thing with that is, and I'm sure I'm going to get both your thoughts on this, even if Willie Collum doesn't think that that's a penalty in the VAR room, he can tell John Beaton in the field that that's not a penalty. I have always been of the opinion it is the referee that has to make the call. The referee should, if it's that type of thing, the referee has to make that decision. He's got the tool to see that again. Why does Willie Collum say, and I'm not going on at Willie Collum, I know I've said on here I've never ever liked him as a referee, but why is the referee, and this happens a lot, it's not just in Scotland recently, it happens a lot, we saw it at the World Cup, referees have the option to go and look at it. Why has that not happened? I don't understand that. What John Beaton could have said, could have had a look at that and said, right, it's a penalty, or it's not a penalty. I think we saw things to say it is a penalty, it's not a penalty. I think it definitely hits his hand, but is it against the rules have said? It's one of those, but it should be the referee that has a call to make. It shouldn't be left to the referee in the VAR room, and then we don't hear any more about it, and then we hear the usual people bringing up the nonsense we hear after that. And it's because of that, though, that is allowed to fester, because it just seems to be not really organised.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it is a penalty. His hands are in an unnatural position, outstretched. The ball does come. It's a fairly short distance, however, I think it's still a penalty. His hands are there up next to his face. It's a penalty.
I don't think anybody would argue if it is a penalty.
Yeah.
That's...
I think the VAR, the use of VAR is just, it's taken, in Scotland at least, it's taken out of the hands of the referee that's on the pitch. It's called video assistant referee for a reason. Mm-hmm. It's meant to assist the referee. It's not meant to be decided by some guy sitting in a van or in an office, wherever it is, watching it on the TV. The referee should be able to go to the side of the pitch despite what whoever is watching it elsewhere thinks and make his decision on it. John Beaton, I'm not sure what he did. He might have decided as well it's not a penalty. That's fine. But we'd like to see him, the referee, going to the monitor and checking it rather than, oh no, it's fine, just wave on play. Just play on. I don't think it's penalty.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. Scott, you to add on that? Yeah.
I don't think it was a penalty. I do not think it was a penalty, right? So I'll read this out to you, right? This is from the FEB website, right? This is the rules, right? So there's a Q&A thing on it, right? It says this, I'll quote it. An attacker takes a powerful shot on goal. A defender who is very close puts their hands in front of their face as reflex action to protect their face, and the ball hits their hands. What is the referee's decision? The answer: the referee allows play to continue as the hand-arm position was the result of the player's natural reflex movement and did not make the body unnaturally bigger. So if we're going by the rules, that was not a penalty. So John Beaton, in my opinion, well, not in my opinion, going by the rules, it was not a penalty.
But you've hit on the point there that I think what we need to see. See if that is the rules. That's all that has to be said. That's all that. See, and this is the thing I've got with referees. If Michael Beale picks the wrong sub. Michael Beale gets quizzed on it. If John Beaton makes the wrong call, we never hear why John Beaton has made that call. I've asked to have SFA referees in this podcast, and they're not allowed on because they're not allowed to be quizzed, and that's the issue. See if it's not a penalty. That's somebody needs to come out and say that. It's left to us, the likes of us, to debate it and things like that, and then other people to make calls that I think can lead to serious problems for referees, because referees' character now seem to be getting questioned a lot. That I think stuff like that would nip some of it in the bud. And I don't think it's everyone. I think there's a small portion that have this in their head, and I've said it for years. There's a small portion that have this in their head, and they'll never be convinced otherwise. But I think Josh is right. I think VAR is there to assist the referees. It's not there to re-ref the game. If that is not a penalty, if that's not a penalty in the rules of the game, and that is the conclusion the referees have come to, that's fine. That's all we need to know. We do not need what comes after that. Silence just adds more fuel to the fire, in my opinion. And that's
sorry to interrupt, Scott. I know what you're saying about like the referees, but why we need to hear why they made that decision. I've been saying that for a long time. Where like, how is it fair if managers and football players, right, they've had a terrible game, managers on the verge of getting a sack, they're getting asked questions by a journalist saying, "How do you feel? Are you worried about your future, etc." They need to go out and do that, right? So why can't the referee go out and explain, okay, this is why I made this decision. That's it. Explain why. Mm-hmm. That's it. So I think like that's what referees need to do. And I think that referees are too protected to an extent. I know it's a difficult job. They come under a lot of abuse, which is very unfair. But like, come on, like they know what they're getting themselves into. Like they need to go out there and explain why they made it. Not so when we watched the World Cup as well, ITV went to a professional referee explaining why decisions were made. The referee should do that after the game, explain why they made that. So and that would it would clear up a lot of things and give a lot of clarity. Whether we agree with it or disagree with it or not, we can be like, okay, that's why he made that decision. Then we can take it from there.
And that, like, I keep going on about the World Cup, but Japan against Spain, the thing obviously with the ball that was stayed on the line that led to a Japan goal. We didn't hear anything on that. Then the next day we heard a thing from the FIFA talking about it, and it was kind of nipped in the bud just because they'd come out and said this is why we gave the goal. It's in play, and that was a kind of close of it. But this thing will be allowed to fester, and this is the issue I've got with referees in Scottish football, because I think the technology can help. I think it's got its teething problems, as a lot of us seem to agree on. But I think it's just going to. I think if it's not addressed and taken care of quickly, I think it's allowed to fester. But we do have 5 other games to talk about. We could probably talk about that game all day because a lot happened. But we did have another derby to talk about, Scott. It was Hearts 3, Hibs 0. Double from Lauren Shankland obviously puts him level in goals with Kyogo and the Premiership scoring chart. Stephen Humphreys added a third later on. Hearts, obviously they're getting players fit. The really bad injury to Craig Gordon as well was a difficult one a couple of weeks ago, but obviously Xander Clark's come in. Lauren Shankland, 2 goals, big difference. He's the difference maker. Hearts are now 5 points clear in third of the rest of the pack, and it was certainly a good derby from a Hearts point of view.
Oh yeah, 100%. Shankland's been flying for Hearts. He's scored 18 goals this season in all competitions. He's been a fantastic get for them, and he was causing Hibs all sorts of problems. And and obviously you touched on the Craig Gordon injury. Xander Clark's been a really good replacement so far. I think he's a very solid pair of hands. And I think it was a great result for Hearts. Like I think even going into that game, I think everyone knew Hearts were going to beat Hibs, and obviously Hearts have got players coming back. They're finding their rhythm again. I think they've got third place secure. I don't see anyone touching them. Robbie Nielsen, I've always been a fan of Robbie Nielsen. I think he's a very good coach. But for Hibs, though, it was a disastrous start. Disastrous. They didn't even get into the game until they were 2-0 down. That's when they started to wake up a bit. Then obviously Hearts just killed them off with the third. But yeah, I thought it was a good performance from Hearts and a massive 3 points, and they just took care of Hibs like they always have done in recent derbies.
Josh, Hibs, I think, are a team maybe when they're in a difficult position, as Scott said there. They went 2-0 down, then started playing football. It was similar against Celtic the game before. I thought they were playing some good stuff in that game, but it was an uphill battle. They lost early goals, they make silly mistakes, and it's really difficult for Lee Johnson. I think the only reason Lee Johnson's still in a job is because I think Hibs have made too many managerial decisions over the past few years as it is. I don't think they want to make another one, but something really needs to change because it must be frustrating for a Hibs fan. It must also be frustrating for Lee Johnson as well because they are capable of playing some really good stuff, but there's a lot of problems there when conceding goals and then they come alive too late.
Yeah, I think Hibs are in quite a poor state now. I think the first goal Hart scored, Shanklin's goal, sums up. Will Fish, I think it was, right in his own goal line, thinks he tries to shield it out and he thinks that Hart's player nips it and gets it off him and Hart score from it. Lee Johnson, I think there was videos of him out in a pub in Edinburgh and, the night before the match, I think Sunday night. And then you go and lose 3-0 the next day. It's not a very good look for a manager. If I was a Hibs fan now, I would be quite infuriated. I think I read something on Twitter. They've not beaten either of the Old Firm or Hearts since 2019, I think. And if that's correct, that is quite shocking for Hibs. They have good talent in that squad as well. Guys like Eli Yuan, he looks a bright player. Kevin Nisbet up top, we know the quality he has. Porteous, we don't. Well, he could come and go. There's bids coming in for him from Europe. You've got guys like Chris Cadden in there who are actually all right. However, Hearts are just a level above. They're a level above everyone else in the league apart from the Glasgow side. They showed that and they continue to do well. Like you mentioned there, Shanklin, he's been immense for them this season. Scores a lot of penalties, to be fair. However, you need that type of talisman at your club. And Xander Clark came in and done brilliant, made quite a few brilliant saves. The game at 2-0, they conceded there, could have went to 2-1, then could have went either way, you never know. However, Hearts, it's just the quality they have in their squad as well. You've got guys like Alan Forrest sitting on the bench, Stephen Humphreys comes on and scores. Australia international Nathaniel Atkinson there. They've got a great squad, and I think Hearts' third place is well secured for them. But Hibs looking at that state at the minute.
Yeah, I think it's two very different sides of a coin. I think Hearts are flying again, getting most of the players fit as well, which was a big thing in the first half of the season. They had a lot of injuries. Now they're beginning to get players back. I think Snodgrass has been immense for them in the past few games. He's beginning to find full match fitness as well. You guys like Grant, like Joyce Grant as well, coming in the summer. He's beginning to find his feet. Humphreys scoring a late goal as well. They're beginning to get there. Whereas Hibs, as you say, they do have the talent, but there's big problems there. And I think it's going to be difficult for Lee Johnson. As you say, McGeady comes on at half time and he kind of runs the game for a wee bit, but there's just nothing comes of it. And that's the big problem. But Hearts will certainly be the happier of the two sides. Hearts sitting in third and Hibs sitting in eighth. Dundee United are a side that seem to be on the ascendancy. 1-0 away victory over St Johnstone. Tony Watt with the goal 10 minutes from time to get the 3 points and puts Dundee United in a better position than they were a few weeks ago. But Tony Watt, again, one of those players who can change a game, but Josh, he could be away shortly. Yeah,
we've seen that. Salford City interested in him. Could be going down there with ex-Premiership striker Callum Hendry, I believe it is there?
That's right, yeah.
Tony Watt, though, scored the winner in that game. It's a good goal on the turn, fires it into the bottom corner. We know the quality he has. It would be interesting to see if Dundee United went for another striker. Obviously, they've got Fletcher there. They've got the boy Sadat Anaku, I think his name is. But that was quite an even game, to be honest. I think it maybe could have went either way. Both sides had chances. Eventually, Dundee United walk away with a 1-0 win. And like you say, they've not turned a corner. They've got 2 wins on the bounce, 2 clean sheets. They drew 2 each with Hearts as well. They're doing quite well now. They've got Rangers up next. That should be an interesting one next Sunday at Tannadice.
Josh, Dundee United, obviously a big couple of weeks for them, obviously with 2 big wins. But St Johnstone, again, they're sitting in an okay position. It'll be you can argue the goal came against their run of play. They'll probably be hard done by not to pick up at least a point out of that game. But St Johnstone will be wanting to turn it round quickly and get some wins on the board because they're obviously only a point away from the top 6, but they're also only 5 points away. And if they struggle to pick up results from the relegation places.
Yeah, it can turn in a blink of an eye, as we know in the Scottish Premiership. I think it's like 3 points. I'm just looking at it right now. 3 points separates 4th from 8th now. St Johnstone are sitting 7th, 24. They will need to turn a corner. They have some decent players in that squad. I believe they missed a penalty in this game. Am I correct in saying that? Oh, no, that was the previous match, sorry. St Johnstone, though, I think they're a good side. They've came a long way since last season. When we look at where they were last season, bottom of the table, had to stay up through the playoffs. They have done well and they are progressing. I think top 6 will be the aim for them this season. but like you say, they do need to start pulling results together. Aberdeen next week though could be all right for them.
Yeah, Scott, obviously a great result for Dundee United. St Johnstone obviously were hard done by not to take a point, but probably Dundee United are certainly happier than they were a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah, 100%. They'll be happy with that. It was a big 3 points for them. In terms of Tony Watt, though, what you were just speaking about there, it looks like he will be off. I think he will be going. I think he's let me off for City, so I think Dundee United will probably cash in on him. And then see, to be honest, Tony Watt he's not really set the house on fire since going to Dundee United. He's only scored 5 goals. At Motherwell, he's brilliant. He was scoring goals for fun, but he's just not really lived up to the hype since going to Dundee United. But that is a big result for them. I think Dundee United, I think it'll be, still, as I said before last time I was on the podcast, I still feel as though Dundee United are still in a relegation battle. Top 6, they're not going to get that. I think the damage this season was already done, but with Jack Ross, in my opinion, and with Liam Fox coming in, it was I still don't believe in that appointment. But this season, it's just all about staying up, because if Dundee United were to go down this season, it will be a crisis. And we've seen how badly it hurt them financially a few years ago when they went down, because they were down the Championship, I think, for at least 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so this season, it's just all about staying up. And obviously, Josh was saying that Rangers have Dundee United this weekend. That will be, I think, the last time Rangers went to Tannadice. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Dundee United actually beat Rangers. Might have, that was Rangers' first loss. Mm-hmm. And I think about 40 odd games or something. So yeah, I think like going to Tannadice regardless, it's still a tough place to go. But if Tony Watt does go, they've got Stephen Fletcher there. He's only scored about 4 or 5 goals this season as well. But if Tony Watt was to go, I don't think it will be a huge loss for Dundee United. And they probably will get a few quid for him as well.
We'll move into the Livingston 1, Motherwell 1. Obviously a game full of drama. Like, it was in the 20th minute, as we saw, Nicky Devlin had 2 penalties. Obviously there was a bit of drama in that when Nicky he took the first penalty, it was saved by Liam Kelly, and he managed to score the rebound. But I thought VAR was quite good here. It showed that Liam Kelly was off his line. Livingston had to take the retake, and Kelly pulled off a save. Scott, I kind of think that's a weird one. How does the Motherwell goalkeeper get punished by having to take the retake with a chance to save the penalty and keep it at 0-0? How does the Motherwell goalkeeper get rewarded for that?
Yeah, I found that
weird. It's just that weird rule, and it happened this season as well. It was it Napoli against Rangers? I think it was Napoli.
Yeah,
that's the penalty as well, and it's just this weird thing of football. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I found it bizarre, and it made it even funnier the fact that boys went the same way again.
Aye.
Like he went the same way again. It was like 2 terrible penalties. So I think it's safe to say he'll be off penalty duty for a good while or so. But I would say, from a Livy point of view, I think Davy Martindale will be really frustrated with that. Like, obviously, they took the lead, right? They had a penalty as well, missed that. Thought Motherwell were the better side, but see with Livy, though, they've got aspirations of getting European football this season, right? I had Davy Martindale on my podcast last month, and he was telling me that's the aim for this season, get European football. And I think Livy have the squad to do that, because last season they missed out in the top 6 just. But yeah, I think Livy will look at that as 2 points dropped. And credit to Motherwell, I thought they played well, created a number of chances. They were just lacking that bit of cutting edge, and that's been kind of like the story of their season. But that was a good performance from Motherwell. I think it's the best I've seen them in a long time. But they're in the same boat as Dundee United, where they'll be just looking to stay up this season. But yeah, I would look at, from a Livy point of view, they will be disappointed not to win that, because at home, especially against a side who are fighting relegation, that's the games that Livy need to win. Same goes with St Mirren, which we'll get on to, because they do well against the big sides. But when it comes to the smaller sides and the poor sides in the league, no disrespect, that's where you need to, that's your bread and butter. You need to beat those sides.
Josh, I think probably both teams were unhappy with a point at the start of the game, but Motherwell probably needed it more. They probably will feel hard done by. Van Veen scores a good equaliser to obviously get them the point. Motherwell, though, are getting pulled towards the foot of the table, obviously with Dundee United winning as well, Kilmarnock have been in a good run. They will want to turn it round, though. They will want to start putting their performances into 3 points every week.
Yeah, I think the performance was there from Motherwell. I think they've done really well. Van Veen scores. I think he was quite good throughout the game, very lively, had quite a few shots on goal. Livy, they will be, with the way they performed, they'll be pleased with the point. However, they would have been aiming for 3 going into that. And like you say, that's the games they want to win. If, like you say, Scott, they're looking for European football. Motherwell, though, they are getting dragged into that kind of scrap at the bottom of the table, and that's a place they won't want to be. Especially 19 points are same as Dundee United now. They're only ahead of them in goal difference. And Ross County obviously at the bottom, they're on 16. But Motherwell will be interested to see how they go. They've always been seem to be one of those inconsistent teams. One week they can be good, one week they can be rubbish. Next week they're all right. They don't really seem to have that consistency in their performance. In terms like Livy, though, they always seem to, you know what they're going to bring, you know they're going to put up a fight, especially at Tony Macaroni. And that's all the more impressive that Motherwell went there and played the way they did and done what they did. But I think they got as a fair result in this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just say one thing, Scott, as well? Sorry to interrupt. I see with Motherwell, it's a big cause for concern for them. 2 wins in the last 14 league games as well. So they're, even though it was a good performance and it's a decent point for them, it's still not looking good. It's still a cause for concern, the fact that they're not picking up wins and only 2 in the last 14.
Yeah, I think there's a massive game for Motherwell on Sunday against Hibs. We'll get into that later on. But big game for Aberdeen. Obviously, they badly needed a victory at home to Ross County. That would have been 5 games without a win if they hadn't picked up 3 points. And they didn't. They were held to a 0-0 draw by Malky Mackay's Ross County side. Scott, Aberdeen, I think there's a lot of problems there. I think they're... I just think there's a... I don't know where to start, to be honest. I thought at the start of the game when I heard like Christian Mires was starting, I was like, how's that came about? He's been out of favour for months and now he's back in the squad. They dropped Connor Barron, who I think has been probably one of the most consistent players in the league this season. I think Jim Goodwin is just trying to throw anything at the wall to see what sticks. And that's fine, but you need to win, especially at home to a team like Ross County. That will be a big blow for Jim Goodwin's side.
Oh, massively. And I'll be honest, right? I think, see, after the 3-2 game against Rangers and the way Aberdeen capitulated, Aberdeen have not been the same since. And I'm not even exaggerating saying this. After that game, I think that has just killed all the morale in that Aberdeen dressing room, because what a way to lose a game like that, you know. And obviously Aberdeen created a lot of chances against Ross County, but that's expected, and they still couldn't find the back of the net. But there is a lot of problems there. Now, I do agree with you about the fact that like he's just trying to throw everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. Aberdeen spent £1.5 million, I think, in the summer, and Aberdeen fans, I don't think they're getting their money's worth. Aberdeen, the money they spent, they should be right up there with Hearts, and they're not. I think they're about 6-7 points off, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I think Aberdeen haven't won in the last 5 games, and like Goodwin, he's just, I think he's a decent manager, right? Done well at St Mirren, but I don't know what it is. Like when you look at Celtic as well, the way he's set up, I think we can all agree like that was pathetic. It was embarrassing. Where it was not football. I like the dark arts of football. I like the part of the bus, etc. I get that, but that was just I didn't know what that was, and it didn't work out in the end. Where like Aberdeen's bottle went and Celtic ended up scoring, and there's something wrong fundamentally with that Aberdeen dressing room where they conceded late on against Celtic, conceded 2 goals in stoppage time to Rangers, where Rangers were terrible throughout the whole game. There's something seriously wrong. Then they went and lost to St Mirren 3-1. It's not looking good for Aberdeen, and I don't think they will get rid of Jim Goodwin. I think the chairman's going to give him a bit more time. And I think they will bring in players this window, but there is problems there, and their confidence is absolutely shot right now, and it's going to be a big month for them.
Josh, probably before the World Cup, you would have said Aberdeen were in real contention to finish third. They were, but when you're in that slump, when you go 5 games without a win, especially after you've been in a decent run and decent form, how do you pull yourself out of that? Because you can have all the possession you want, and I think Aberdeen, a lot of the time, they can play some decent stuff. I thought they were quite decent against Rangers in the second half, but how do you recover from that? Because that must be, as Scott says, that a game like that is a gut punch. When you lose 2 late goals like that, and then especially in a highly contested game, how do you recover? Especially when now you've went from near enough being in contention for third to being only 2 points away from being out the top 6.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to recover. Like you say, both games, I think, against Celtic and Rangers would have shot the confidence right out of them. Rangers in particular, but Celtic obviously as well. They defended the whole game, then they get last minute goal. I think after the games, they had St Mirren, Kilmarnock, and Ross County. You'd be aiming for between 6 to 9 points from those games if you're Aberdeen, with no disrespect to the other sides, and they've managed to get one.
Mm-hmm.
It's vastly concerning. The Ross County game, they created their chances, they done well, but as much as you're doing that, you need to take them. I don't think they were flying before the break. They were doing brilliant. Like you say, they were in contention for that third spot, playing some brilliant football. I think for some sides, the break just came at the wrong time. I think Aberdeen was winning. And especially the 2 games against Celtic and Rangers just took the confidence right out of them. They need to start picking up points now. A good one's going to be under even more pressure because you just can't take 4 losses in the bounce, then a draw at home to Ross County. However, Ross County, they were solid. They done really well. They defended well. They've proved they can do that this season, though. They've done well at Celtic Park. I think Celtic managed to beat them 2-1 in the end. They were all right against Rangers. Rangers went up there 1-1 a couple of weeks ago. Malky Mackay's side have proved that, and that was a good point for them. They lost 4 in the bounce going into that game, and they're bottom of the table now. They have Livy and Dingwall at the weekend, so they'll look to turn a corner in that game potentially. However, Aberdeen, there's big problems there. Goodwin has to solve them soon.
Yeah. Scott, from a Ross County perspective, I think it's difficult because we've spoke a lot about them this season, that they are solid, they can play some decent stuff, they're quite solid at the back, but you need, in games like that, you need to create chances, you need to score more goals. Ross County are by far the lowest goal scorers in the league. They've got the lowest goal difference. That's the reason they're bottom of the league. I don't think anybody can argue that Ross County play some decent stuff, but they need to start scoring goals or they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, 100%. Like they've got absolutely nothing up front. Like White's not good enough, and it's just overall they lack creativity, and there's just no goals, and that's why I think they're going to go down. That's what's going to cost them this season. It's been the story of their season, not being able to score goals. I think this window, it's massive for them to get a striker. If they don't get a striker in who's half decent and can get some goals, they'll go down. They will go down. And yeah, they are a well-organised unit. They do all that well. They are quite difficult to break down. Like as Josh was saying a couple of weeks ago, when Rangers went up to Dingwall, it was very tough for Rangers. They're no pushovers when it comes to like the way they set up, but up front they are just so weak. And like that's when you're playing against Ross County, you don't need to fear about like, okay, we can even put our squad defenders in there, we'll be all right. They won't create anything, they won't score, So yeah, it's massive that they need to get a striker in this window, or else they're going to finish rock bottom.
Mm-hmm. Final game of the weekend in the Premiership was Kilmarnock 0, St Mirren 0. An early red card for Ethan Errahon meant Kilmarnock. I thought Kilmarnock would have a good chance to keep their good form going, but Derek McInnes was quoted as saying his Kilmarnock side were predictable as they failed to overcome a 10-man St Mirren. Josh, I think that's fair. I think when you lose a man that early, St Mirren will be delighted to go up the road with a point, but from a Kilmarnock perspective, it's kind of more of the same, kind of failing to take advantage when you've got a chance there. Yeah,
it would have been disappointing for them. Errahon gets sent off early on for Kilmarnock. You're looking at, this is a game we could actually go and win here. However, like you said, McInnes says, same old, can't really take their chances, but St Mirren would have been more than pleased with that point. I think they were unfortunate not to win it at the end. Alex Grieve had a chance. They put some pressure on towards the end of the game. But St Mirren look really good this season under Robinson. I think they've done pretty well. Kilmarnock have kind of turned a corner in recent weeks. A victory there would have backed that up even more, and they will be disappointed to come away with just a point from that game.
Scott, I think that's fair. I think Kilmarnock, they dominated possession, but you can dominate. We spoke about it with Aberdeen. We spoke about it with a few teams tonight. Actually, you can dominate the ball all you want. If you're not creating chances, then it's not worth anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would see after St Mirren got the early red card, that was a massive opportunity for Kilmarnock to push on and get the 3 points. But credit to St Mirren. They are such a well-organised unit. They're a very good side, and Stephen Robson's doing a fantastic job there. And because both Old Firm have struggled against St Mirren this season, like at their ground, obviously they lost. St Mirren beat Celtic 2-0, then Rangers dropped points in Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's last game there. But yes, St Mirren, they're just so difficult to play against. And Kilmarnock found that out as well, where they'll be delighted with that point. That is massive, because the red card as well, it was daft. There was no need for the boy to elbow him like that. That early on as well, it was stupidity. So I think Stephen Robinson would have been livid about that, but he'll take the point all day long. And at Kilmarnock, though, they will be frustrated of it, like as you were saying there about what Derek McInnes said. They were predictable. Yeah, they were. They were predictable, and St Mirren seen right through that. Stephen Robinson seen right through that, and just couldn't really break them down in that way. But I think Kilmarnock will be frustrated because the fact that they beat Aberdeen recently, they beat them 2-1. So, and they beat them at Rugby Park. So Derek McInnes must have been thinking, right, we beat Aberdeen, we can go on a wee run here. But yeah, that's 2 points dropped for Kilmarnock, but Stephen Robinson will be over the moon.
Josh, Ethan Errejón is a player that's come under a bit of news in the past couple of days. Obviously, the red card on Monday, but there's been chat that he was potentially heading to Forest Green Rovers in English League One. The deal seems to be off, but he could be a big loss to St Mirren if he was to go, because there is still talk of maybe going to a place like Oxford or Portsmouth. He's a big player for St Mirren.
Yeah, I think he's so young as well. He's came through the ranks at the club. He's done really well. He's versatile. He can play home midfield. He can play left back, play attacking midfield. He's a big asset for Stephen Robinson in that engine room and defence when he plays there as well. He did let his team down at the weekend, though. We can't deny that so early on in a game. That could be a sign of inexperience, just youth reacting to maybe something stupid said in his ear. We don't know. But at his age, it's very hard to turn down a player the chance to go and have a crack at England. So could be interesting to see. Oxford, Forest Green, two decent clubs down there. And St Mirren, they keep producing talent. They do. John McGinn came through the academy there. Even in the squad now, not through their academy. Well, actually, through guys like Kieran Offord, stuff like that. However, they also have a talented squad. Guys like Keanu Bacchus, Ryan Strain. You wouldn't imagine it'd be long for interest, isn't them? I hear Rangers from maybe looking at Bacchus as well in recent times. However, yeah, Ethan Errejón, he's a talented player. Always liked him, to be honest. He's still quite young, though. He seems like he's been around for a while, but he is only 21, 22, so yeah, looks good.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of transfer news over the next few weeks as well. But we'll move into the Championship. It's been a big kind of turns in the Championship since we were last recording a show. Queen's Park are now the new league leaders. Are 2 points clear at the top of the league. A big win over Partick Thistle on Monday, a 2-0 victory. Queen's Park, Scott, what a rise for them in the past few weeks as well. When Aaron, the day right at Morton, have been fighting it out, but Queen's Park have kind of been going under the radar and they're just getting wins.
Oh yeah, 100%. They're flying right now. And do you know who I credit a lot of that to? Leanne Dempster in the boardroom.
Definitely.
Leanne Dempster, she is a very good chief executive, and like she's done wonders with that club. And they are intention of getting promotion this season. With Arbroath last year, it was all like it was a fairy tale story, but really deep down we knew they weren't going to get promoted. But with Queen's Park, though, I genuinely believe they have a serious chance of going up this season. Maybe not winning the league, but maybe through the playoffs. But that's a massive credit to Leanne Dempster. And you can see, ever since Leanne Dempster left Hibs, on the field, Hibs have went right downhill and they are a mess. But that, like the fact that Queen's Park were able to land her, she deserves a lot of credit for the way she's rebuilt Queen's Park and got them flying. Yeah, and it's great to see. And if they get promoted, it'll be a great asset to the Premiership, in my opinion, because they are one of Scottish football's most historic clubs. Greenock Morton, though, I think they've kind of faded away a wee bit, because I actually believe they would have, like, I still kind of believe they have a good chance of going up, but they've kind of faded away a wee bit. But it's good to see they've turned a corner, because considering the fact that a couple of years ago they were in real dire straits financially, and Dougie Imrie's done a great job there. So when you look at the Championship right now, it's up for grabs between like Partick Thistle and Queen's Park. So yeah, it's definitely an exciting league to watch this season, whereas last year it was basically a 2-horse race to an extent. But yeah, the Championship's entertaining this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think you've got a lot of teams that could maybe go up in that league as well. I think Dundee, obviously, I wouldn't sleep in Dundee either. I wouldn't sleep in Ayr either if they can get a run going again. But a managerial change in the Championship after Monday, I don't think I think it's quite surprising that this news just came now, but I think at the time when this appointment, I was like, I don't see that lasting too long. Jim McIntyre has parted company with Cove Rangers. Cove are maybe a club similar to Queen's Park. Maybe there's a lot of ambition there, Josh, but losing Paul Hartley, bringing in Jim McIntyre, it was a bit of a change, and it's probably been unlucky for Jim McIntyre. Actually, I think he's had to get in there. Obviously, a couple of players have left. It's been a difficult season so far, but Cole will be hoping to get that appointment right and stay in the league.
Yeah, it's a big appointment for them. They're sitting 4 points off the relegation spot. They're 10 points off. Well, sorry, 4 points off the playoffs. They are a good 10 points off the bottom, so that's all right for them. They couldn't really deny Paul Hartley the chance to go down south, but they didn't really get the Jim McIntyre appointment right. That's why it's absolutely crucial. They get this one spot on to stay in the Championship and then build the next season to have a crack. And if they're going to be a side like Queen's Park, try and keep fighting up the divisions. I think though Queen's Park, I really like the look of them. I was at Hampden a couple of weeks ago. They played Hamilton. They beat them 4-0. They play some very entertaining football. They look really good. They've got the sporting director in from AZ Alkmaar, I believe, and Marin, but I'm not even going to pronounce the name. It's hard to pronounce, but they got him in. He's done really well. The recruitment's been spot on. They've got a good blend of youth and experience. People like Grant Savoury, ex-Celtic Academy. He's done really well this season. Simon Murray up top. We know the quality he possesses. Captain, he's the leader of the side. He scores the goals. I'd love to see Queen's Park get promoted this season, whether it be automatic or through the playoffs. They've renovated Lesser Hampden as well. They're continuing to make strides, and like you say, one of the most historic football clubs in Scotland. It'd be great to see them back in the top flight.
Yeah. League One and League Two, Edinburgh have cut the gap and done Dunfermline to a point. A massive 5-3 victory over Airdrie. Peterhead drew 0-0 with Montrose. A couple of cancellations in that league, but with Queen of South 1, Clyde 0. And in League Two, we had Elgin with a big victory, puts them to third, and Stirling and Dumbarton also won some big results there. And we're kind of back to normality, I would say now. Get into from Saturday onward. It's been weird Christmas. It's always weird Christmas. You feel as if you've got a game every 5 minutes, but we're kind of back to a normal Saturday Sunday routine. We'll kind of go through the 6 games and we'll ask for your predictions and we'll kind of hold you to them for kind of over the weekend. Josh, we'll start with you. Celtic, Kilmarnock. Celtic have the chance to go 12 points clear. Home game against Kilmarnock. It should probably be routine enough, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it should be for Celtic. I think we'll see likes of Jota and Abada coming back into the team this weekend. Aaron Moy, maybe even potentially. I think particularly Moy, Jota and Abada, I think they were 3 players who could have easily started at Ibrox. I think they will this weekend. It's hard to see anything but a Celtic victory here. I think I'll go with 3-0 or 3-0 Celtic. I'll go with.
Scott, can you see anything other than a Celtic victory?
Yeah, no, I think Celtic will win. Celtic will win. I think it'll be very comfortable. I'm going to go 2-0 Celtic.
I think 3-0. I think Celtic will be. I think it'll be fairly routine for Celtic. Josh, Aberdeen, St Johnstone. Can Aberdeen finally get a win on the board after a disappointing run and get out of the slump, or can St Johnstone go up there and maybe not surprising? I think St Johnstone could get something. I'm going to go 1 each. I think St Johnstone can get something out of the game. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think it could be an interesting one. I think it could easily go either way. Say Aberdeen get an early goal, they might go on and we've seen what they can do. However, St Johnstone are solid. I think I'll go with a 1 each as well.
1 each. Scott, what about that game?
I'll agree with you. Well, this is going to be a hat trick here. I'm going to say 1 each as well. Yeah, I fancy St Johnstone get a result. St Johnstone actually have in the past a decent record at Pittodrie, if you recall. I know it was years ago, but mind they went up to Pittodrie and beat them like 5-1, I think it was, a few years ago. But yeah, I fancy St Johnstone to get something, and the pressure will only just intensify on Jim Goodwin.
We'll move into Ross County against Livingston. Again, one of those games that could go either way. I usually think there's going to be a 0-0 somewhere among the 6 games. This is the 0-0 for me. Josh, what do you think of Ross County Livingston?
I think, like we mentioned earlier, Ross County's attack is quite poor. Livy are usually solid defensively. It isn't Dingwall, though. I'll go with a 2-1 Livingston. Okay,
2-1 Livingston. Scott, what about yourself when Ross County against Livingston?
I think it'll be scrappy. I think Livy are going to need to dig in deep for it. I'm going to go 1-0. It won't be a pretty game at all, but this is super. As I was saying earlier on, but this is the bread and butter for Livy. They need to beat these kind of teams. So I don't think they'll care how they do it, but as long as they get the 3 points, so I'm going to go 1-0 Livy.
1-0 Livingston. And the final game is Saturday, St Mirren against Hearts. Hearts obviously in a really good run, in St Mirren as well. It's always a difficult place to go. I do think Hearts will win. 1-0 Hearts I'm going to go for. Josh, do you think Hearts could go there and win?
Like you say, it'll be a tough game for Hearts, but they can and probably should beat St Mirren. I think it'll be an entertaining one. I'll go with 3-2 to Hearts. 3-2
to Hearts. That could be a goal fest. Scott, what about yourself in that game?
Yeah, see, be honest, I think that'll be game of the weekend. I'm going to go for a 2-1 2-1 Hearts. 2-1 Hearts.
2-1 Hearts. We'll move into Sunday. We've got two games. We've got a double bill on Sky. 1:30, we see Motherwell play Hibs. Again, two teams probably in urgent need of a victory. I think there could be goals in this game. I'm going to go for two each. I think there'll be goals though. Josh, what about yourself?
I think Motherwell will carry in their performance for the Livy game. I think they'll beat Hibs. Hibs will continue their poor run. I'll go with 2-0 Motherwell.
2-0 Motherwell. Scott, Motherwell against Hibs.
I'm going to go 2-1 Motherwell. I'm going to go 2-1 Motherwell. And I'll make a bold claim here. I don't think Lee Johnson is going to last the window. I really don't. I feel as though he's lost the dressing room completely. I was going to say this earlier on before we moved on, but what he said after the derby when he came out and he said there's too many average players in the squad. I'd rather get rid of 10 and sign one quality player. He brought 15 players in the summer. 15 players he brought in. And yeah, the way he's come out just criticising the players, apparently after the derby, didn't speak to the players in the training ground. He's either trying to work his ticket, in fact, he's trying to work his ticket or get backed more by the board. And I don't believe he's going to last the window. When you come out with those big statements, lambasting the players like that, when really he can't cover himself in glory with the fact he's brought in these players, 15 players, and it's not been great so far, I don't see him lasting the window. I think it's a ticking time bomb. And if Hibs don't get rid of him, he'll be... They won't get the top six, in my opinion, because and that's why I think it'll be 2-1 Motherwell, and the Hibs fans are already turning on him anyway, and it's not going to be the reaction if they lose to Motherwell will not be pretty.
Yeah, I think I don't disagree with that. I think it could be a difficult couple of weeks for Lee Johnson if he does not get a result, particularly on Sunday. Final game at 4:00. Dundee United host Rangers. Rangers obviously hoping to get back to winning ways after the draw on Monday. Scott, can they do it? Can Rangers go to Tannadice and pick up a victory?
Yeah, 100%. Like as I was saying earlier on, I've been encouraged with what Beale's done so far. We're playing some good stuff. It's night and day compared to what it was under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. Obviously, as I was saying, Tannadice is still a tough place to go regardless of their form. But this is a game Rangers will win, and I think Rangers will win it with ease if Rangers are switched on. And I think Rangers will win 2-0.
I'm going to go for 2-1. I think Rangers will, as normal, go behind early on and then come back and win the game. I do think Rangers will win, but I still think there's a lot of mistakes in that Rangers team, particularly defensively. So I do think the Dundee United will score. Josh, give us a wee prediction on the Dundee United Rangers.
I think it could be a tough game for Rangers. Dundee United, they've won their last two games. Rangers cannot afford any more drop points after going 9 behind. I don't think they will. I think they'll win 2-1.
2-1. Big calls will obviously come back and see how we got on with the predictions after Sunday. And we're going to wrap up the show there. It's been an absolute pleasure, boys. Scott, first of all, thank you very much.
Oh, no problem, mate. Thanks for having me again.
Pleasure. And Josh, thanks very much again. And we'll see your column out tomorrow about the past two games for Celtic.
Yeah, look forward to seeing that. Cheers for having us.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks very much to everyone that's tuned in. And we'll be back on Monday with another episode of the Scottish Football Show. Thanks very much again, folks. We'll see you soon. Cheers.